The experience which I am sharing now is my own experience as well as the literature which has been quoted. As Dr. Shikhande and Dr. Sham Agarwal have already given you the details regarding the role of chemotherapy as well as the surgery. And so, as per if you look at the literature, there is not much left actually for the radiation oncologists according to the data which has been presented. So my job here is actually to dissect it out from the same data and show you that still what are the areas where we can still add radiotherapy in these patients, whether in the neoadjuvant or in the adjuvant setting. Nirav, can you go to the next slide? So if we look at the incidence, you can see on the right side, it is the fifth most commonly diagnosed cancer. And if you look at the left side, you can see it is the third leading cause of death, cause of cancer deaths. So what is important in stomach cancer, all of us who have been discussing the surgeons and the medical oncologists, is that you need to have at least a R0 resection, that is number one. And number two, next slide, please. Next, Nirav. Yeah. Number two is next. This is the type of surgeries which have been already discussed by Dr. Next, this is the important slide. If you look at it, even after doing the surgery, you can see that the most of the failures which are occurring in these patients, they are in the tumor bed or the locoregional failures. And then secondly, there are the failures which are overlapping with the locoregional failures. They are the peritoneal carcinomatosis or the failures in the peritoneum. And then is the distant metastasis. So overall, if you see, even after surgery or perioperative chemo, what are we expecting is that the patients, they are going to have more and more locoregional failures. If there is a little bit of suboptimal surgery, that is the R1 resection, or we are not in a position to remove complete number of lymph nodes, even in a D2 lymphadenectomy. That means the posteriorly placed lymph nodes, if they are still there, they are going to cause a problem, because the lymphatic metastasis ultimately is going to lead to the peritoneal failures. So that is the point which I want to highlight, where there is going to be a role of radiation in these areas. Because if you look at the mechanism of action, once you cover the tumor bed in these areas or in an intact stomach also, you are treating those lymphatics. And by the execution of this radiation dose there, you are going to produce necrosis in that area of the lymph nodes and the lymphatic channels, which is going to block it and cause fibrosis. And that is going to be removed later on, but this will prevent a future spread. This is a thought which was given by Kim et al. And in their publication in 2015 in the World Journal of Gastroenterology. Next, please. So with this thought process, already the schema has been shown by Dr. Sham Agarwal, and you can see there is a role which is placed for adjuvant chemoradiotherapy, that is number one. But if you go into more and more dissection of the NCCN 3.2, there are three areas where they have written neoadjuvant chemotherapy or neoadjuvant chemoradiation. So the choice depends upon in C2 and T2C disease, depending upon whosoever gets the patient. I am not a proponent of that. I'll say the patient has to be in the tumor board, and I think if we find out the risk factors, which I am going to dwell in the next few slides, the patient should have either a neoadjuvant chemoradiation protocol or post-operative chemoradiation. Next, please. Now, let's see the first trial which was there, the INT-0116. We all know that this trial had a good number of patients, and adjuvant radio chemotherapy versus observation after curative gastric resection. That means R0 resection has been done. So in this, it was identified. Next, please. Next, please, Kaplesh. Go to next slide. It was clearly identified that the overall survival as well as the relapse-free survival, it improved in this group of patients. You can see on both the slides, here also and here also, once the patients were receiving the chemoradiation. Next, please. Next, please. And when this pattern of failure was studied, again, another important aspect came that the patients, when they were seen regarding the relapse, the patients, they had more relapse in the control arm, that is surgery arm. and there were less failures in the radiochemotherapy arm. And when we see the failures or the subsite analysis, again in the subsite analysis, the most of the failures, they were in the loco-regional area rather than going to the distant site initially. Next, please. The MAGIC trial has been discussed. I'll just say one thing. What we got from the MAGIC trial was pre-op chemo well tolerated, but 5% did not complete pre-op treatment due to toxicity. So there was no increase in post-op complications. So that was what we could correlate from the MAGIC trial, that you can give pre-op chemotherapy. Now, how to add radiation with this or with doublet or the oral capecitabine, that is important point. Next, please. So in this, two important aspects were the pathological complete response was not much in the surgical specimens after 3 cycles of ECF. This means in the MAGIC trial, no doubt we have done surgery, but if you look at the pathological complete responses, they were not there. And we know that the correlation of the local failures as well as distant failure is directly related to the pathological response. Next, please. So can we do something by which we add a third modality in this? And with this intention, the ARTIST trial started. But it came to, next please, the results of the ARTIST trial were not very good. We started with 2 arms in this. One was the capecitabine and platinum arm, and the second was capecitabine platinum with the external RT, and then 2 cycles later on after completion of the radiation. Next, please. So you can see that these patients all had D2 resection. But 2 important components which came from this trial was, that is you can say the multivariate analysis which was important in this trial was the disease-free survival. If you look at the graph A here, in these group of patients showing slightly better in the chemo plus radiation arm as compared to chemo alone arm. But if you look on the other side, the disease-free survival, and this B group is the disease-free survival in those patients where there was a lymph node positive disease. So they were the patients who did much better as compared to patients who had lymph node negative disease after a R0 section. So this means if there is a lymph node positive disease, addition of radiation in such group of patients is going to definitely help in improving their overall survival. Next, please. I will show a detailed analysis of all these trials at the end in the NCI data data where addition of radiation has led to a definite improvement in the overall survival. Now it is less in percentage, but it is there. If you look at the disease-free survival, all the arms, again you can see with the help of chemo RT, or when the RT was added, there was a distinct advantage in different subgroup analysis of these 2 patients, even after D2 lymphadenectomy. Next, please. The second trial, which is CRITICS trial, which has been most of the times it is said that the number of patients were so good in this trial. There were about 788 patients and 2 arms were there. And the randomization is chemotherapy, surgery, followed by chemo, and the other was chemo, surgery, followed by chemo radiotherapy. So in the adjuvant setting, instead of giving chemo, you give chemo radiotherapy. Next, please. So you can see here in this trial, we couldn't get much of the benefit when it was seen as compared to the both the arms, the 5-year overall survival. And if you look at the toxicity wise also, the chemoradiotherapy arm in the post-operative setting, the patient did not do well. And most of the patients, the survival as well as the randomization in the disease-free survival or event-free survival did not help addition of radiation. Next, please. So this was something which was important in this trial. We did not find better efficacy of post-operative chemoradiotherapy compared with post-operative chemotherapy in patients with resectable gastric cancer treated with pre-operative chemotherapy and adequate surgery. Tolerability was also similar between the 2 adjuvant regimens. So this requires future explorative. They wrote it future explorative because in a subgroup in these patients, those who had high yield of lymph node positivity, they again showed poor results. Next, please. Now, another NCI data which I was talking to you, analysis was done where a pool-in analysis was seen for both the group of patients, those who had received perioperative chemotherapy, that means 1,884 patients, and those who had received post-operative chemotherapy with addition of radiotherapy. And in this cohort, please, next slide, please. Next, please. In this cohort, you can see what has happened. If you look at the survival analysis, after 5 years, you can see the arm where no radiation was given and the arm where radiation was given. This I was talking. There was a 5% absolute overall survival advantage at 5 years with the use of adjuvant RT in addition to chemotherapy. But in which group? That is more important. Next, please. So a propensity score analysis was done of this data. Whole of the data was again analyzed and reanalyzed, and they found, you can see here in this in the forest plot, you can see that the margin status negative versus positive, nodes examined more than 26, 15 to 25, 1 to 14, the N classification, and 3 people, T classification, more T4, T3. So there was a distinct advantage in these group of patients by addition of radiotherapy, and not in the other patients where there was a disease which is T1, T2 or a N0, N1 disease. So the group of patients who have margin positivity, who have a higher number of nodal positivity, who had N3 classification, who had higher T3 stage, they are the patients who are definitely going to have a better advantage in both loco-regional failures, which will be reflected in the disease-free survival and then in the overall survival. Next, please. Next. Now you can see there are 2-3 randomized the trials which were done, and they showed that addition of adjuvant chemoradiotherapy did improve prognosis in gastric cancer after R1 resection. So this Dutch cohort study, Dr. Shilej has already shown it that if you have a R1 resection, that is the only area where presently there is a role for adjuvant chemoradiation. Next, please. Next, please. So we had ARTIST-2. Now the ARTIST-1 did not show any benefit, but ARTIST-2 with S1, with a combination of S1 alone, S1 with oxaliplatin, and S1 oxaliplatin plus RT, 2 cycles and then 4 cycles after completion of RT. So these are the 3 randomization in 900 patients after D2 resection, which has been done in ARTIST-2. Next, please. Next, please. So you can see an interim analysis which has shown that the disease-free survival in S1 arm alone was significantly shorter than addition of oxaliplatin as well as with S1 and oxaliplatin, S1 and external RT. Now these 2 groups, that means with radiation or with chemotherapy, there is not much of the benefit. There is the disease-free survival is almost similar, but single drug has definitely not helped rather than addition of 2 drugs in node positive, stage 2, 3. So in these 2 group of patients, addition of radiation has definitely helped a better local control as well as survival. Next, please. So in the neoadjuvant setting, next slide, please. What is the role now in the neoadjuvant setting? Now there, I'll say that in the neoadjuvant setting with the advent of perioperative NSCT, we all have a fear that there will be more chances of complications with surgery, or the chances of leak are more, or the wound healing is going to be poor. But 2 important things are there, that now the radiotherapy techniques have evolved a lot, and you have a technique of delivery with the help of IMRT, where you can save such areas, and the area of the stump, which is most important for rectus, can be taken care very well with the contouring, which is done with the help of a pre-operative CT scan, which is taken in position, and even a merger of PET-CT has shown excellent results. I will quote 2 of our own studies where we have done dosimetric analysis as well as we have shown the survival benefits also. Both the papers have been published recently, but they have definitely helped in enhanced resectability to assess the response in the primary tumor, whether there is a complete pathological response or a partial response. There is a definitely improvement in the local control, and the micrometastasis can be taken care. So to answer these 2 trials, we have now Top Gear and Critics 2. One I had already shown didn't improve much, but Top Gear, the results are weighted of Top Gear. There is a little bit interim analysis which has been shown. Next slide, please. So if you look at the Top Gear, the groups have been demarcated. One is the group where you are having a control arm with ECF into 3, and the second group with with ECF2 plus pre-op chemo RT with 45 gray. One more thing I want to highlight here for my non-radiation group colleagues here: 45 gray in 25 fractions with the help of 3D CRT, or you can escalate it to 50.4 in 28 fractions with the help of IMRT. The complication rates are going to be more, but there will be a better BED. And I have seen in my patients, we were giving capecitabine with that 5 days in a week. If there is a more toxicity, we were giving 2 days off, but the radiation was continued till 6 days. And in these group of patients, the results were much better as compared to the systemic chemo like infusional 5-FU and leucovorin group, which was given earlier. Next, please. So in these interim results, preoperative chemoradiation is safe and feasible and does not show adverse side effects in the surgical morbidity. It demonstrates the advantage of delivering radiotherapy in the perioperative rather than the postoperative setting, because you have an intact tumor bed. Now, once the stomach is removed, the stump which comes near to the subhepatic area, it becomes difficult, because that is the site which needs to be included in your radiation portals. And once that site is included in the radiation portal, the toxicity is going to be more, because a lot of tumor bed will cover the dose to the hepatic region is going to be more, and so there will be more and more toxicity. So in a preoperative setting, you have a stable tumor bed rather than a distorted anatomy which needs coverage of all the anastomotic sites. This is going to deliver radiation to a better area or a small area, and your organ at risk areas will get lesser dose. Next, please. So the critic 2, I will not go into detail of this. The regimens are: one is the cross regimen, which was given earlier in the patients who had esophageogastric involvement, and the same drugs are used with the same dose, that is 45 gray, 1.8 gray per fraction. Next, please. This is in the resectable patients, and the results of critic 2 are still awaited. They have not done an interim analysis. 2 more slides, Bhuvan. Next, please. In our own experience, we had 2 publications. We were analyzing the data for last almost 5 to 6 years. When I wrote the book, we had already evaluated that data. So these are 2 recently published. Now, next, please. One, we did a analysis in our contest that in India, whether a 3D CRT can be compared with a IMRT protocol in delivering the dose to the stomach patients, and we showed that in the subsequent comparisons, we see that 3D CRT provides adequate homogeneous target volume dose coverage and OAR protection comparable to IMRT. But in the post-operative setting, 3D CRT may be a difficult option rather than a IMRT, because there you will have a larger area in the 3D CRT than a IMRT protocol. And more than the radiotherapy technique, it was the anastomotic site and tumor location that determined the OAR doses. So depending upon whether the tumor is near to the pylorus or it is near to the fundus, that is something which is going to change your OAR. So that was something which was important in the analysis of our patients. Next, please. The second study which we published was regarding the clinical outcomes and the prognostic factors. And we found that after curative surgery, if we do the adjuvant treatment in these patients, whether we are going to have a help with the help of addition of radiation, or is it going to be only post-operative chemotherapy. Next, please. Next. So in this, we found that the survival in gastric carcinoma is influenced by the stage and the surgical margins. Some of our patients who had suboptimal surgery are, as now the PCI scoring has become so important. I think in the analysis of our study, we had those patients where PCI was not done at that time in most of the centers. So we found that these patients, they had higher failure rates when the radiation was not added to them. And locally advanced patient radical surgery followed by sequential chemoradiation with doublet or triplet were the independent prognostic factors. So these 2 things were important in the analysis which we did in our own setup, that means the Indian group of patients. Next, please. So the take-home message, I'll say, though the preoperative RT still lacks large-scale phase 3 clinical trials for gastric cancer, as it has been highlighted by Dr. Shyam Agarwal also, we don't have phase 3 trials. But it is mentioned in the NCN guidelines that you can take up such patients where you expect that the failures are going to be more, so you can add a third component of radiation in the intact setting. Number two, in the post-op RT, it is now clear if you have patients with D1 or D1 plus lymphadenectomy, or the clear D2 lymphadenectomy is not done, and out of the D2, if the node positive is there and margin positive is there, these patients should receive adjuvant chemoradiation rather than only adjuvant chemotherapy. So two settings I'll make clear. In the perioperative, please identify what are the group of the patients which are going to help by addition of a third component with chemotherapy, that is the radiation, as we do in the rectal cancers very oftenly now, and esophageal cancers. And in the post-operative setting, most of the patients with D1 resection are D2 suboptimal or D2 with node positive and margin positive should be given adjuvant radiotherapy or a component of chemoradiation in those settings. Alone radiotherapy given in both the settings is going to be a very poor modality. So a component of chemo with radiation is definitely going to be helpful. Next, please. I think I'm over. Thank you so much. This is the new place where we are now having Tata centers in Chandigarh and Sangrur both. So I have a double job working in both the centers now. Thank you so much, Bhuvan. Thanks, Dr. Vaid, for giving me this opportunity.
We can't hear you, Bhuvan. You're muted.
Thank you, Rakesh sir, for such a comprehensive coverage. It was a much required, detailed, in-depth coverage of radiation in gastric cancer. So I think we have a few questions lined up. We can take them up right now, or we can do it at the end of the. We can do it at the end of the all lectures.
Bhuvan, may I suggest that we could some of the pertinent questions, which could be a couple of questions, could be taken after, since Dr. Shyam is also there and Rakesh has also completed his talk. We could take a couple of questions.
Good, sir.
Or if there are any questions in the chat box, you could sort of bounce them off right away.
So I think Shyam sir was trying to answer a few of them, but I think they will not be able to reach via the chat box to the patient or to the people who asked the questions.
So
I think
Bhuvan, I think
yes,
there's a pertinent question by Dr. Roshni Pandey. That if you do not have a D2 resection, so are those patients not eligible for K-POX regimen? So that is a very important question, because so the issue is, how do you define D2 resection in your clinic? Because so my way of, which is what I've mentioned in the chat box also, if somebody comes to me with a report of histopathology from the surgery, that less than 12 nodes are removed and are not identified, so then I feel that it is not D2 resection. So this patient, therefore, to my mind, will not only go for K-POX, but also should be, advised radiation. Well, that is my take, but I think maybe Dr. Rakesh can supplement this, or even Dr. Vaid can comment on this.
Rakesh sir, would you want to add on to it?
I fully agree with Dr. Shyam Agarwal. See, the surgeon has gone in with a definite intention of doing a D2, and once they remove, I think Dr. Salesh, if he is here, once they are doing surgery, they are doing excellent job. They are removing most of the nodes, whichever they are seeing. But the location sometimes and the amount of the fat which is sometimes there may make it difficult for the pathologist also to identify and give a correct answer. So at that stage, if the load is more, say if 12 nodes are removed and 9 are positive, so we presume it that these patients, they are a suboptimal D2, or they should receive adjuvant chemoradiation. So both the combination of two is going to definitely help such group of patients. I think in our contest, the results in CS stomach are going to be bafflingly variable from center to center. The reason what I have found in most of the areas is it depends upon the availability of the medical oncologist who can handle the toxicity better, the radiation oncologist who has a equipment with him. Is it fully equipped center and they are trained in delineating the post-operative tumor bed properly. They can identify the stump properly, or the stump has been placed with a clip or not. And secondly, also for the surgical oncologist who should be there in that center, as Dr. Salesh has said, that at least 15 to 20 D2 gastrectomies that person should have done, which takes 2 years minimum.
So I'll go one step further. So I'll say that if I get a report that 6 nodes are removed and all of them are negative, and taking the cue from a colon cancer, so where you have to have minimum of 10 to 11 lymph nodes. So if they are not there, then you know, by and large, we are giving them chemo. If all these 6 nodes are negative in patients with colon cancer, so I think the NCCN guidelines clearly state that they are candidates for adjuvant chemo. So on the same lines, if you have less than 12 nodes, removed, and even all of them are negative, so I think a call has to be taken, because there is no data for D1 in favor of CAPOX. It is only for D2. So short of D2, whatever you are doing is, you have to do your best. So this is what I mentioned in the chat box, that is radiation a substitute for suboptimal surgery? So that is where the role of surgery is very, very critical to remove adequate number of nodes so as to take a correct decision.
I'm in total agreement with you, Dr. Sham, on that. The number of nodes and of course the application of CAPOX. It's very clear actually. There is no ambiguity about that.
Thank you, sir. I think that answers the suboptimal nodal dissection question. So there's another question for you, Dr. Rakesh. What is the incidence of GI toxicity in Top Gear study?
See, I said when we are comparing toxicity, we are going to the MAGIC for chemo, and we are going to the INT001, that is the SWOG trial, and we are looking at that. If you see both the trials, MAGIC for chemotherapy toxicity and this INT00116 for radiation toxicity, they all have used suboptimal techniques of radiotherapy. It is not done in the techniques which we are doing now. Those papers were published in 2012. Now we are in the era of 20s. Most of the things have changed now because we have a better delineation. At that time, people were treating 3D CRT and wider margins were given. Now you are giving very specific margins and the organs at risk are delineated properly. So the toxicity is not now comparable. You don't have much toxicity now. But one thing I said, from the clinical experience, what we have seen in an intact, that means pre-operative staging, pre-operative chemoradiation, it will be easier to deliver with 3D CRT rather than giving it in the post-op setting. So if a patient comes to you in post-op setting and there is an indication for chemoradiation, I'll prefer IMRT rather than 3D CRT, because the location of different anastomotic sites is going to be variable now. The usual anatomy is disturbed. So more and more splenic area and more hepatic area will be in your radiation portal now. Because the moment you cover the pyloric stump, you are going very high up on the right side. So that will give more dose with 3D CRT. With IMRT, you can do a modulation in your dose and you can give a constraint for the liver and the splenic bed, and less hematological toxicity will be there.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. Sham sir, just as a part of research advance, do you think there is a role of avoiding adjuvant chemo in MSI high gastric cancer? That's I think.
As I showed you, I think the data is hypothesis generating. So I think you need to do more, trials in that direction. The problem is that the MSI high numbers, I think in gastric cancer will not be very high to select out. But then, yes, I mean, the thoughts are the preliminary thoughts in that direction. But I think at the moment, it's not a selection or a rejection criteria for or against CAPOX.